Welcome to Robert Walters Talent Talks. I'm Joanne Chua, Regional Client Development Director at Robert Walters, and I'm your host for this episode in our leadership series. This series features leaders from around Asia Pacific, with them sharing their experiences, advice, and insights. Today, we are joined by Parag Arora, Area Vice President Networking, Asia Pacific and Japan of Citrix Systems. Citrix is an enterprise software company that provides technology, empowering organizations to unlock potential and deliver a better employee experience. Thank you, Parag, for making time for us.
Absolutely. Look forward to it.
Great, fantastic. So, Parag, we understand that in the midst of the pandemic, you took on a new role in the form of Area Vice President Networking, where companies were really rapidly making arrangements to transition their employees to work from home with the various lockdowns across the region. Now, what this means to your teams at Citrix would be, that they really had to really find ways to help the customers scale up very swiftly. Must have been a stressful or challenging transition for you into this new role. How has the experience been like for yourself?
I would say that the last 3 to 4 months have felt like 2 years. The the amount of learning we went through is just amazing as a team, and I think in these times it's so important that that you have the entire team communicating and talking more frequently. So one of the big things for me in the new role was having a bigger team, a more cross-functional role to work with, and then I'm hiring people across Asia Pacific and Japan. So how do you onboard people at this point of time was extremely important as well. So I think one of the key things which really worked for me was what I call as over communication, and it's so important that you really communicate authentically and more thoughtfully, and make sure you understand the team, what they're doing. And especially in Asia Pacific with such a diverse culture, it's so important that you really create those one-on-one connections with the team as well. And I think from market standpoint, you're right. As in, this has been a very interesting time because I think every technology vendor, you need to really redefine how do you kind of position your solutions with the customers, because customers have very specific demands in terms of how they make their employees productive, how do they secure their employees, their assets, and still be agile and keep on growing. So I think one of the key thing for our business was to redefine our value proposition. How do we kind of position our solutions, and how do we kind of talk to our customers, to our partners, because partners were extremely important to our success. Because they do form a very integral part of our success as well. So I think the key was about change, and whether externally with customers and partners, and again internally with our employees, how do you really react as early as possible to it.
Right. And you mentioned earlier that you had to take on a larger team. You had, new relationships within the organizations which you needed to build up. And on top of that, you were also hiring. How do you go? And you talk about the key to this is really over communicating. How do you do that? I mean, yes, we talk about the use of, the platforms like Zoom, MS Teams, etc. But quite frankly, is there a limitation, or do you find that using such tools really help you in building new relationships that you will probably not have the privilege of doing prior to COVID-19?
Absolutely. I think with the new tools, of course, we use Teams extensively within Citrix, and I think video in generally is a very powerful tool. As in, I figured out, as in we've always thought video as a not a very overrated tool, but now I think clearly in the last 6 months or 5 months, video has become our kind of de facto. And especially in a small group meetings, or one-on-one meetings, video is extremely important. So, and like in all my one-on-one team discussions, or reviews with my direct reports, or with my cross-functional team members, I generally make sure I connect with them on video, talk to them, and kind of I felt that these it's more authentic and it's more genuine communication. So absolutely, tools are really important. But again, I think as a leader, I think it's so important that you take the initiative, because it's not always easy to find the time to do these things, because you're dealing with business, your quarterly results, your weekly outcomes. At the same time, how do you make sure that people are aligned, you're really able to talk to them. So really taking the time out every day on the calendars to make sure that you have time to talk to people, connect with them and really kind of be able to communicate a more consistent framework across the business. So yeah, I think it needs work, it needs proactivity, and it needs the good intent to make it happen.
Well, not easy, I must say, right? Beyond, besides just delivering top line results, the conversations have to go beyond business and to create authenticity and personal conversations. That must have been a, challenge. How did you go about, maintaining a positive and forward-thinking mindset? How do you build up that sort of resilience that's needed in this crisis?
Yeah, no, no, I think very good point, and I think absolutely, as in, I think not only us, I think even with the kids, my own kids, and with family, you talk about this, right? I think this is the time when I think it was so important that positivity was in the center, in the front, right? So I think in generally, I'm a very positive person, right? And I've generally I look at things always, on the positive side. But I think the key thing to me has been really learning very quick. As in, I've figured out that in these times it was so important that you make mistakes, you unlearn them, you learn from them, and then you move forward. I think really how rapidly you kind of move in the business. So that was first thing, and second, I think it's so important to keep yourself physically fit. I think I just felt that that in this time it was so important that people are really keeping themselves really physically agile, physically fit, because that did make a lot of impact, because your mind and how you operate has a lot of impact on how physically you feel. So I think some of these things, and again, as in, there is no shortcut to working hard, right? As in, I've always believed that that if you work hard, if you put the effort behind it, you start seeing results, and as results come, you become more positive about things. So I think some of these things really helped me over the last few months, I would say.
Excellent, excellent. Now, you talked about earlier about this need to make quick decisions, which sometimes may lead to mistakes, and it's about quickly learning from these mistakes, right? How do you, as a leader, create that sort of environment with your people that gives them the comfort that it's okay to make mistakes? Because in some organizations, some leaders do not allow for mistakes to exist or happen.
Yeah, no, no, I think good question. So I think for change to happen and to embrace change, it's so important that you innovate and experiment, right? As in, I am a big believer that for innovation to happen, experimentation comes first, right? So,
Mhm.
and when you say experimentation, I use this word very cautiously, because experiments don't always succeed, right? So I think I think the whole appetite is so in the business to have that you create an environment for the team to feel secure that that what they do, their new ideas, their new suggestions, I think they're acceptable, and b, we give them a chance to see if it works for them or not, or for the business. So I've always encouraged new ideas, and again, I won't say it's a pretty kind of a not thought out strategy, as in we do spend time to brainstorm the ideas before we implement things. Not that every idea we take and just implement that. So we do make sure we kind of as a small team look at those opportunities and see what's it makes sense, it doesn't make sense. But again, after a quick first level qualification, we try to implement things as early as possible.
Excellent, excellent. And what would you say are some of the key leadership traits, you think would be important for the leaders of the now and future?
I think one of the key things is for any leader, moving forward or even now, I think there are three or four important things, which is what you are look for, right? One is growth. In every business, I think growth becomes first. The second is profitability, and third is innovation, as in how quickly you innovate in the business, and finally, I think how well you manage your teams. So I think these are the key things which I've seen, which are important to any leader, and especially personally for what's worked for me, and I would encourage others to do as well, is to lead from the front, right? As in, it's so important for a leader that to really lead from the front and really demonstrate to the team that what do you mean by what you say. And so I think that's one of the key things I would say, is have the right energy and agility in yourself, so you create an environment where people People are always pepped up. They look at you as somebody who's doing things along with them, being more participative. Don't make the team feel that they failed without you, failed together. I think some of these things are extremely important, but I think for me is, I think I would say, lead from the front, have the energy, your mental energy, your emotional energy, your physical energy, to make sure that you really can create an environment, where speed becomes first, and you really focus on customer outcomes. And the second thing is, I think it's very, very, very dear to my heart, is, what I call customer success. And I know this word has been there for a long, long time, but, I have always felt that, everybody in the business, whether you're a leader or you're anybody else, every day when you wake up, you should think that, hey, what I am doing right now in the business, how does this really help my customers, and does it really bring them value or not? And that mindset, really creates a very different level of urgency, different level of, thought process, and even innovative mindset in people, because you start wearing the hat of a customer and start thinking, hey, how will this help my customer? So I think some of these would be really important takeaways, and, I would think these are theories of leadership which have been there forever, and they will never go off, I would think, in the near future.
So, well, a lot has happened in the last 6 months. Have you observed yourself shifting in the way you lead at all?
Yeah, as in I would lie if I say I'm not. As in, absolutely, I think, I think being adaptive. As in, I have personally, I would say the need to adapt was so high in this time. As in, I think, as leaders, sometimes we do get so siloed in our ways of thinking.
Mm,
I think this last 6 months really gave time to a lot of us to go back and reflect and really think, hey, what's working, not working, and just be more adaptive. And I think personally for me, I would say the adaptation rate was pretty high in the last 6 months. And again, this was absolutely a need of the hour. If I didn't adapt myself and the team, we wouldn't have been successful. So yeah, again, like a great example, I tell people that, that as sales teams, for many years, when you've been selling to customers, you go and you go and travel around the world, you meet customers, you present to them in their offices, you meet them, you kind of, socialize with them sometimes. But in this last 6 months, I think pretty much everybody was selling on the phone. And, what I call this as a huge global experiment of, inside selling, right? So this was a huge adaptation as well, that, how do you really make your customers understand, your value proposition, how you empathize, virtually, how you make yourself more relevant. So I think the way we communicate, the way we interact with customers or partners, the way we work internally, I think it had a dramatic shift, even for me personally, because I was always a person who would love to go out and meet people
mm,
and, hang out, for a drink in the evening, connect with people, socialize with them, because I felt it was a very important part of the business. For last 6 months, it's pretty much gone, with little bit of that happening now in Singapore with 5 people coming together. So yeah, I think that was a big adaptation for me, I would say, to really create that environment of collaboration and trust, in the teams and with the customers as well.
yeah, I empathize with you. I share that challenge as well in the last 6 months when we can't go out and physically engage with our clients. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. Last but not least, there are some among our listeners who are the younger leaders, up and coming leaders. Would you have some final learnings or sharings that you would like to, impart to them?
Yeah, no, I think, a few important things, and I think the first thing is, I would say, very often when you're young in a business, right? So you think, hey, I've done my MBA, I've done my PhD, or I've done my engineering, whatever, right? So I now go and work. I think the first key thing is don't stop learning. As in, I really feel that, anybody who comes into any business, you should never think that, hey, I'm graduated now and I've stopped learning. I think that's so important for new leaders to come with the thought process of, never stop learning. As in, you have graduated, great, but you have to keep on learning. And I think the second thing is, really the power of working together, right? As in, I think, a lot of I would say the new generation is so used to working on social media and really using the tools so effectively of the past. But again, we should never forget that that the power of a team is something nobody can reckon with, right? So it's so key that within your company, within your partner community, within customer community, how do you really create a sense of team where there is belongingness, a common shared vision amongst everybody, and taking the initiative to kind of go and create these partnerships. So yeah, I think that's a second thing, I would say, which is just about how do you kind of work and collaborate better. And third, I would say is the sky's the limit, right? As in, you should never stop thinking that what you have achieved is good enough. As in, I have grown with that thought process myself, as a graduate from engineering college and an MBA school, that the limit is never defined. You have to keep on redefining what you want to achieve. So keep on aiming for bigger goals, and that's the only way you will be there.
Wow, so many nuggets of truth that you have shared in the last 20 minutes, Parag. I really appreciate your time, and really thank you so much once again for taking the time to discuss with us your experiences and insights today. Greatly appreciate it, and I'm sure our viewers will also enjoy your sharing.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Parag. Have a nice day.
Thank you.